Hello and welcome to another episode of Wife Her Live. If you're watching this, you are likely on the replay, so welcome in, and we are so happy to have you on tonight for another episode in the home ownership series. So my name is Zemi Stewart. I am the host of Wife Her Live and also the founder of Wife Her Ministry. And Wife Her stands for Wife Healed, Empowered, Restored. And we are all about that. We're all about helping women become healed, empowered, and restored, because in doing so, they become healed, empowered, and restored wives, healed, empowered, and restored moms, sisters, colleagues, etc. And the list goes on. And so we're so happy to have you on tonight as we continue in our home ownership series. And tonight we're discussing the home building process. Last week, we spoke with singles about purchasing a property while a single woman. And today we're talking about the home building process. And so without further ado, I'm going to put my guests on the stage. So welcome all of the guests tonight. And I'm going to read through their bios. And as I read through your bios, ladies, you could just do a little wave so they know who you are. First up, we have Crystal Holder. Crystal has over 18 years of professional experience in the financial services industry and is employed as a business risk and private banking support manager. She is the proud wife of Mr. Andrew Holder and mom to an amazing daughter, Patria. Added to Crystal's list of titles, including her two favorites, which are mom and wife, she is a homeowner. Crystal and her husband designed and built their home and carefully curated the perfect oasis for their family. Their beautiful home has been featured in CVS, The Paint Place, B.O.B., and most recently BPL commercials. And Crystal is Nassau-based, so all of those are Bahamas businesses. So Crystal, can you give a wave? That is awesome. And moving on to Lyndira. Lyndira Fowler is an interior architect and designer with a heart and eye for biophilic and sustainable design. She graduated Magna Cum Laude with a Bachelor's Degree in Interior Design in May 2019 and currently works in a Nassau-based architectural firm. She also owns and is the lead designer of Lyndira Fowler Design, a boutique interior design studio specializing in small-scale renovations and interior styling. So you can go ahead and wave to our guest, Lindy. Exactly. Thank you. Then we have in the US of A, Dr. Sinitra Jordan, who is an educational professional going on her 19th year of teaching and coaching with the Metropolitan Nashville Public Schools. Congrats to you. She is a mom of two wonderful children and one loving service dog and has been married to the love of her life for 15 years. In 2006, she and her husband purchased and built their first home. The Jordans more recently built again and moved into their single-family home, which they closed and moved into in February 2020. So go ahead and give us a wave. And finally, last but not least, we have Terriana Bullard, who is a registered nurse employed at Sunderland's Rehabilitation Center and who is also co-owner of Emergency Air Care Services, which is a company that provides emergency care to patients being airlifted. Outside of her career and business pursuits, one of her biggest accomplishments thus far has been acquiring her home, settling into a residence, and taking on the new title of landlord. So welcome again, ladies. We have an array of experiences here, and I am so excited to get into this discussion. So I'm thinking that we start in terms of I want to hear your stories first, and then I want to break it down into this home building process. So we'll go through how you picked your site, how you picked your professionals, if you decided to manage it yourself, or etc. So that's how we're going to move through this conversation. And so, Crystal, we'll start with you. Why did you make a decision that I want to build versus buy? Let me take you off mute.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
First off, I don't like anything used. So I was never going to buy anything that I then had to remodel. And the home that we live in now is our second home. Mm-hmm. I did use my first home as the springboard for what was to come. But I knew exactly how I wanted to design it. after the fifth step, I should look right and see this. At the second step after that, it should be this. So I knew exactly what I wanted to build. And so even in the architectural stage, I already had my floor plans done. Before I went to an architect, I already had my finishings picked out. So I
wow.
designed a home around that. So it, it, it is exactly what I had envisioned. And of course, I could only do that with starting from scratch.
I agree. I can see that for sure, especially if you want it exactly tailor made to you. Now,
Yeah.
Terry, I know your story is a little different, but what gave you the mate was the final deciding factor for you to build versus buy? And you can walk us through your story.
Well, basically, it's what presented itself first. Apart from me searching and searching and searching to acquire home ownership, I went through several banks because I was so young in my profession. They were like, "No, ma'am, you can't get what you're looking for. You are not qualified for the rate." So after that, they told me I only could qualify for a repossess. I tried that route, but didn't find anything I liked. I went through some housing agencies. Their fees were ridiculous, more than I budgeted for. So that was a no. Then, I went to rent to own. And I started to settle with that. We were in negotiations, but for some reason, my mother, who I consulted with, she was not interested at all. She basically tore the heavens down praying about that and praying against it because she did not want that for me. She always said, you need your own property, you need your own space. I don't see you having that. So after that, I came across an ad on Facebook. And from that ad, I just inquired with my contractor, and he basically walked me through that step. So that was the smoothest process, and that process had to be God ordained because I did not anticipate, everything going as smoothly as it did.
Awesome. Awesome. And you, again, built your home from the ground up. There was no existing structure.
Yes, I built it from ground up.
Exactly. Okay, moving on to you, Sinitra. What was your process like? I know you also had two homes. You this
Yes.
process in the pandemic. So what was that like?
First of all, thank you for having me. Second of all, it was very different than the ladies are explaining here. I'm living in Nashville, Tennessee, which is one of the fastest growing areas in the United States right now. The property is selling like 24 hours and stuff like that. So we moved out of our existing home because we had a buyer in 24 hours. And our new home was supposed to be finished, and it wasn't. So I know all about the mayhem of trying to deal with children, service dog, and lizard in a hotel room for 2 months before your property is finished. It was nothing but the grace of God that sustained us. We were told, well, I believe in order and God's ordained power and everything like that. And one day I woke up, I told my husband, we're going to build a new house again and it's going to move real fast. I said, be ready. And here's what you need to do. He looked at me, he said, okay. And as soon as it hit, when God delivered it to my heart, I said, hey, babe, it's time to go. He said, I got it. I'm telling you, our house sold in 24 hours. We moved out of our house on Christmas Day into a hotel.
Wow.
Yes. With our little live Charlie Brown tree for our children into a hotel. And the staff at the hotel welcomed us. And it was pretty good to have the room service and stuff. But it was nothing but God. And when he told us to move, I moved and I acted quickly. And I'll tell you, I could never have imagined me, one of 11 adopted children, being able to afford my own, or let's build my own home, So that's my little story.
Amen. Praise him. That's someone's church today who didn't get to see
Yes,
it.
it is.
So let's go to our pro, right? if I am an individual, I know sometimes it's based on obviously my personal goals, but if I'm making a decision to either build fresh, so look for property, or do a fixer upper, or purchase a turnkey home, what are the key determinants for me?
Sorry. Okay, so sorry, repeat that question for me once.
So I'm faced with three choices, obviously. So I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm not like Crystal. I don't have in my whole life that I want to build, right? So it's
Mhm.
either that I build, I move turnkey, or I have a fixer upper. What is the key determining factors for me in that process? What makes me go either route?
Well, first of all, in your case, I would determine, is this going to be my starter home or is it going to be my forever home? Because that makes a big difference. If it's going to be a forever home, chances are you want to customize that to the T, as Crystal would have done. If it's a starter home, you can probably go with a fixer upper route, fix it up, flip it, make a profit off of that. Or again, even if you're looking for a starter home or a forever home, they have some turnkey options that are good that require little to no remodeling. So it really depends on which stage of life you're in, I'd say.
Awesome. That's a great answer. I see some comments coming through. So Terry, you have some fans in the house. I see Mika B saying, "Hey Terry, motivation." And then Joni Saunders, she says, "Team Terry, empowering Black women." So thank you for joining us tonight. Please tell your friends to come in and support. Good evening, Ella. Thank you to our viewers for joining in. Okay, so what about like looking at a property? What am I looking for? And anybody can answer this question. I'm looking at a blank slate. I'm touring all over the island, or different venues if you're in the US. What makes me decide on a particular property?
It's amazing because I know when I stumbled across our property, I was actually sitting under the hairdresser one day browsing the classified ads for no particular reason. And even at that time, I already had our floor plan that I used to travel with me in my wallet with. But a
Serious.
property, yeah.
I love this.
So, and I was and it was at this time, this part of what I'll say reminds me of what one of your speakers had indicated. And I was just sitting there looking through the classifieds for no particular reason, and I saw this property that was dirt cheap in a gated community. And I called, and it happened to be someone that I actually knew, but they were just literally getting rid of the property. That was a Saturday, and I went home that day and I was talking to my husband, and I was like, what do you think about us jumping on the idea of selling our home at this time? Maybe we need to get it appraised. And just putting things and timelines into perspective, that was a Saturday. I got a appraiser to our house on a Monday afternoon, and just casually talking to him with this property in the back of my mind that was dirt cheap, and the size of it was pretty beneficial for us. And as I was just talking to him, you kind of get caught up in the moment. So he was an appraiser and a realtor.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, talking to him and saying, what do you think I can get for this house and whatnot? And just to backtrack a bit, our first home was an Arawak home, so it was a package deal.
Mm-hmm.
But I did tailor some of the finishings to my liking. So it was on an A-shaped property, so it was kind of a large piece of property. It was one of their bigger bedroom models. And then so when you put all of that into perspective, what I paid for it and what I got for it was near double, even though living in it for only 5 years. And that is because I spent a little extra on the finishings, knowing that it wasn't going to be my final home, knowing that at some point I would sell it, but also wanting to be comfortable in the home as well. So this is Monday evening, and that appraising little meeting that we had turned into, what do you think I can get for this house? On Friday, he told me to go to this particular lawyer because there's some docs that I need to sign. And I, casually thinking about it, but there was a check waiting for me. And we were on that next Saturday running around looking for somewhere to rent. So 7 days later, we're running around looking for something to rent because this lady already left this check for this lawyer for this house.
Mhm.
And we found something, and I'm talking to her and I'm saying, could you give us another week, maybe another two, because we have a lot of stuff, and she's like, no, I kind of want to be in my house on Monday. One Monday I'm casually talking to an appraiser. Another Monday I'm literally, boxes all around me, clothes thrown everywhere, out of my house,
Mhm.
and we stayed where we were, and I purchased the property and was able to fortunately purchase the property outright, and kind of put the rest to the side, to start the construction. And I took my time with doing that aspect of it, but that whole thing went crazy. However, all of that was kind of sidetracked to what your question was in terms of location. You see the property dirt cheap. And the dirt cheap doesn't have to do with what I'm saying now, because that was pretty much based on the lady needing to just get rid of the property for personal reasons.
Mhm.
But consider a property where, you're looking at it from the front, not realizing that you have a whole construction cement company in the back of you. When you look at that property, you're not even taking in, you're not even hearing the noise when you visit the property to realize what's in the back. Or you're not looking at the leveling of the ground per se, or even with a gated community, not taking into consideration the pros and the cons of a gated community. So all of those things kind of played a factor, a bit negative more so than positive to some extent. You're kind of getting used to it now. But I think if there are some critical things that persons must look for when they're deciding on a piece of property, not so much just the cost, but your surroundings, because you're going to be there. And that needs to be conducive to you. And, looking at the ground, we never realized the flooding issues that we would have had, or the money that we would have had to pour into rectifying issues to ensure. So these are the things that you don't think about. You see a nice piece of property, you see the size, and you're not considering the engineering aspects of it, or or how your home is going to fit on it, or how the layout is going to be, because we have a pie-shaped home. And if I'm somebody that likes everything asymmetrical, then you're going to end up with a little issue here or whatnot. But understanding the surroundings of the property, understanding, even if you're in a gated community, the pros and the cons of gated community, and the pros and the cons of that community, because this is the place that you're going to have to continuously enter, live in, and remain. And so all of that, even your neighbors, sometimes getting to understand, what do you like about where we live, where you live, what do you dislike, and taking into consideration if that's something you're going to do, because your home is your biggest investment. And sometimes I do feel like sliding this over into something else, or what can I do to make it work? And those are going to be some of the investments that you're going to have to make, because you didn't consider certain factors as it related to the property and location itself.
Yeah, and as you were thinking, I had so many different thoughts. Number one, for those listening, this type of consideration applies to a spouse too. So, and sometimes you locked in. So make sure you weigh the cost and everything that she was saying. So I'm a big proponent of that. Everyone knows on my social media. So as well, like that was something that came to mind. Number two, you talked about HOA. People don't even think about HOA and that being something long term. Not so much. Well, actually, it can be in the Bahamas as well, Bahamas and abroad, where the HOA can feel like a mortgage payment. It can be that high, into the thousands, and so people need to consider that. And also, homeowners insurance is what HOA is. No, I lied.
No,
That's
homeowners
not
insurance is something
it.
different. Yeah.
Homeowners
Yes.
association, homeowners association fees, they can go up. So you may have come in at a
Yes.
particular price point that was beneficial for you at that time, but that can go up. So, it depends on, and what are you getting for the HOA fees? And you have to compare that across communities too. So, I getting my garbage taken out? Do they manage the sewer, the street lights? Do I have a beautiful park? Is the pool clean? Like all of these things that you have to consider. Is there even a pool? Because some neighborhoods, they have a high price and it's just security. And so all of those things you have to keep in mind as well. And we'll move over to you, Sinitra, because I'm interested to know, when you had this short window to get into your home, what did you do? How did you look for this property?
Prior to putting it on the market, my husband and I, we're not experts at all at design. I mean, I'm a blank slate. I'm not lying. I'm window treatments, all this stuff. So I knew I had to find a newly developed community. I wanted to be in a community because I have children of a certain age and I wanted them to feel a part of the community. I know I wanted to be in a diverse area with all cultures. I knew I had to find one and all. That means my builder is there, my realtor is there, my designer is there, my everything is there. And that's what we were looking for because when you're not as educated in a certain area, you want to find the experts that are all together, that work well together. So both times that we built, we found a newly developed community with lots that you can look for floor plans. If you like those floor plans, you can add this, you can say, because I know nothing about engineering. I'm telling you, that is not my expertise. I'm education all the way.
That's the
So
way that I would go. You know, I
you
think
should. My house is beautiful farmhouse style, but it's all white because I didn't know what. I had no idea what kind of color scheme, so that's not my expertise.
so. That's where
So
someone
we
like
were
Lyndira
looking
would come
for,
in, right?
huh?
Lyndira's like,
Right.
We were looking
I've had
for,
oh, sorry,
fun with
sorry,
that.
sorry.
we were looking for places that are least expected to get hit by tornadoes because we have a lot of tornadoes here in Tennessee. We were looking for no builders behind us. We didn't mind them on the side or in front, so we bought a larger lot so we had no one behind us because we have the service dog and gated area. We were looking for no flood zone because Tennessee floods a lot as well. We wanted a HOA because we want our neighbors to keep our community up and we didn't want our property values to drop. And homeowners insurance and all that stuff. We were looking for all in one. And while they were able to show me different, fixtures and stuff, and I'll talk about the money aspect a little later, but that to me is God sent. I didn't have to go looking for those type of people because they were all in one general location. So when we were looking for our land, those were some things, the schooling, all that type of stuff. We took those things into consideration, the pools, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I like that you said tornadoes and flooding, not necessarily like community issues, but like flooding, natural disaster issues, because that's important as well for those, obviously on the island. You have to make sure that you're positioned in such a way that you're not too close to the water, or if you are close to the water, you build in a certain way. But I'm going to keep referring to Lyndira as the pro. So I want to know from you, when you're thinking about a property, what is someone looking for? Are they thinking things like elevation? Are they thinking like, I mean, when you walk into a property, are you thinking like the way the direction the wind blows? Like, how do you see a property?
For me, the biggest thing is definitely if it floods or not. I'm sure we all hear people who have built their home or from experts say, visit your property or property that you're interested in when it rains. When it rains when it rains a lot, and you want to see how water settles. You also want to see how it settles in the yards of your neighbors, and you want to sort of use how they may have built up their homes or built up their yards as a reference, so you can kind of figure it out. So that for me would be the biggest thing is how water settles in a yard. The wind, not so much. I'd say air pollution in terms of noise. Definitely wanna take that into consideration. But will you be able to manage? I mean, would you be able to deal with that? Especially sometimes, even in properties in the West, there's planes flying over all hours of the day. Will you be able to handle that? Are you easily annoyed by that? How would you have to incorporate proper insulation to sort of buffer out some of that noise? So those are some things that you would want to consider. Definitely, but the biggest thing for me would be how water settles and how high you would have to builds up your yard or builds up your home.
That's great. And I saw Crystal nodded like, I wish I knew that.
Listen, that plant must have not been operational then, because I don't ever remember hearing that noise. The planes I can take, but that noise is just a little different. Just a little different.
Definitely. And even like we didn't build, but we purchased our home turnkey, and I sneezed every day for a year because of how close we were to a plant. Literally every single day for a year, I sneezed all day because my allergies got really, turned on. So it's important, even with that. Like I would have never thought, hey, this may be a potential issue for me. Let me see what kind of pollutants are in the area. And so all of those things, you're not just looking at your lot, you're not just falling in love with the size or the placement or the view, but you're thinking about flooding, you're thinking about natural disasters, you're thinking about your neighbors, and you're thinking about what is in the area, not just noise, pollution, but also actual physical pollutants as well.
And what's to come?
Oh yeah, exactly. And then we already talked about finding the property. I see the questions on the side. So we're gonna get to some of those towards the end. But what comes first? Is it I go and I arrange financing, or do I get my designs ready and then I know how much it's gonna cost, or do I get pre-approval? What's the process there in terms of my next step after I would have purchased my property?
Well, I think
I for one did it in reverse.
Go ahead, Terry.
Okay. Yeah, you definitely want to save all the funds that you can, because when you get pre-approved, they want proof of how much you've acquired over a period of time, and then you get pre-approved. Once you get pre-approved, they let you know, hey, you could get this amount, you could get that amount, and that's one of the most, I don't know what they call that process, was just so disheartening at times when you expected, this high amount, and they come at you and they say, no, you can't get this amount. You're not qualified for this amount. So I would encourage anyone just to save, and then you seek your pre-qualifying rates.
Yeah, and I did see a question about how much the whole process would be. I think you determine in a sense how much it will be, because you're the one who are choosing if I purchase a $25,000 lot or a $110,000 lot. You're also the one who is deciding if I go ahead and I build a 2-story, or you determine your square footage as well. And square footage is what's going to determine the cost. Lyndira, I don't know if you have any expertise in terms of, well, you probably do, in knowing cost per square footage. I know as well in Nassau, cost per square footage changes based on what side of the island you're built on. But can you give people an idea of what it will cost to build a home?
That's a tough question to answer, honestly, because it varies. It really does vary. It depends on your budget. It depends on what all you want in a home. It depends, like you said, on the location. So that is always, for me, a tough question to answer. Fees also go up. Even architecture fees, everything goes up by the square foot. And so it's really, really hard to determine, especially in terms, I think that question came from someone in Eleuthera. So it's different. It varies from island to island as well. So again, that's a really tough question. I'd need more information to determine an exact amount, but I guess for now, I can just say it varies.
What would you say is the most common? I mean, I know you probably have a different type of clientele than the average, but what would you say to expect to pay if someone is just planning off the cuff?
In terms of what, architectural fees or the total package?
Let's start with architecture fees, if that's going to play a role.
Okay, because right now you had a client, a 2-story home in a gated community in the Western District, and just their architecture fees was upwards of $30,000. So every time there's and that's just minimal revisions, and every time there's a revision or a deviation, that price goes up. So that's kind of the idea. Like, I have a lot of people coming to me and they're like, oh, can you give me this house phone? Do you have something on your computer? How much does it cost? And for some reason, and I've had this conversation with my colleagues as well, people are like, can I get house plants for $500, $1,000? I'm just like, where it's impossible, you know. And so a lot of people are out of touch in terms of how much those fees really cost. But honestly, I can only speak for my firm. I will say what you pay is what you get. So you pay that amount, you're gonna get quality. You're gonna get detailed construction documents. You're gonna get high resolution 3D renderings. So you're gonna be able to visualize your home almost as if it was completed. You know, you're not gonna have, but paying that price, you're not gonna have a lot of pushback from Ministry of Works, because with that price comes architects that are experienced. You know what I mean? So a lot of times, you know, your plans will be approved right on the spot. So you get what you pay for. You get what you pay for, and I can't stress that enough. So a lot of people like to cut corners, and they like to get recommendations, or they like to get referrals from, you know, maybe a cousin, or, you know, someone that they feel like is going to give them what they want at a cheaper rate, and they end up paying for it in the long run. All right. I can't tell you how much people come to the doors of the firm that I work for, where they already have plans that are in place, and they have to come back to us to redo or, you know, re-strategize, and it costs them in the long run. Whereas if you had gone to an experienced architect that was qualified, licensed, etc., and just get the job done the first time, right? So definitely do your research in terms of architecture. Also in terms of construction, contractors in the Bahamas don't always have the best rep.
We're gonna go there.
Yeah, so they don't always have the best rep.
And how to choose your contractor.
Yeah, so you definitely also want to don't just go off, oh, hey, my cousin is a good contractor, or, you know, you really want unbiased referrals and recommendation. You want to see the projects that they would have worked on. You want to have talks with the homeowners. How did they complete the project in a really good timeline? Were they what is the word I'm looking for? Were they reputable? Was it a contractor of integrity? I just saw something on Facebook. There was a contractor that was involved in stealing some doors from his clients. So, you know, all of these things you have to take into consideration when you're choosing who you want to work with. Wow. So again, the takeaway here is you get what you pay for.
Yeah, I agree.
Those drawings are just not floor plans.
No, they're not. They're not.
You know, and then that's one thing. One thing I learned in this whole process is your contractor could only build what was given to them. Correct. And sometimes we have this dream of what it is that we want, and the average person can't read a drawing. And I can tell you of one mistake that we had. I knew that I wanted, you know, windows that were 5 feet long, but the height on my first floor was 8 feet, or, you know, 10 feet, and you're not reading it properly to realize that something is off here until it's a bit too late. Where, you know, so those are the type of things that you have to make sure, and all of the different types of drawings play a part in your architectural fees, because an architect can give you just your floor plans the way they are, and, you know, even with pricing, it plays a part, because if you have very detailed plans drawn, there leaves no guesswork for the pricing with the contractor. And there leaves no guesswork when it comes down to you arriving there on one day, and this room ain't the size that you want, or these plugs aren't where you want. All of these little things help in that construction phase. I mean, we had that issue in the first maybe month or so when I realized, hey, there was more to these drawings that I actually needed. And having that extra discussion with the architect was like, yeah, you got to have these ones too. But those things are important. And if you shortcut on those architectural drawings in the beginning, you're going to pay all through your journey or in the end, or you're going to walk into that house every day and hate the fact that when you look right, a window's supposed to be there and a wall there or something of that sort. You know, make sure that you have your architect working hand in hand with your contractor. Make sure, you know, some persons can't have a project manager, but if you can, make sure you have that. Make sure your vendors work hand in hand with your contractors and your architects, because a lot of times we try to do this thing on our own And it's when it's too late that it's going to cost us in the end. And, it makes it better for everybody, because you make the contractor frustrated, you make the architect frustrated, you make the vendors, you can imagine, oh, the windows were supposed to be there, so I was supposed to have 20 windows and you only send 15 at this price. All of that plays a part. So there are many moving parts in constructing a home. And I mean, ours was seamless. We had an amazing contractor, but those things are critical in ensuring that you have a seamless process to work with, even at the end product.
That's great tip.
Yeah, I'm glad Crystal brought the point that not everyone can read floor plans. And so that's where your 3D renderings come in, because the average person can't really read from the two-dimensional standpoint. That's what us as a professionals that we're trained to do. But the average person, they need pictures. So 3D renderings are pictures of what your home is going to look like.
Even
And furniture placement, it all comes together. And that's where even a good set of construction documents is going to have a lighting plan, where you're going to hang your pendants. So that is an afterthought, because some people, they'll construct a home, and then after that, they're going to say, hey, I want my chandelier here, I want my pendant here. But that's something that should be considered in the construction document phase.
Mm-hmm.
Also, a good set of construction documents would also have a furniture plan. How are you going to lay out your furniture? How is your furniture responding to the design of your home? Because a lot of times people design from the outside in, so the facade of the home, and then sometimes when you come in, you want a bed to be placed there, but it can't be placed there because there's a window there, or there's not enough wall space here. So a good set of construction documents would always have also a lighting plan and a furniture plan. That furniture plan is key. It's pivotal to the space planning of your home, and it allows everything to flow. Because sometimes you walk into a home and you're like, why is it, everything just looks off? It doesn't look planned. It looks like an afterthought. But sometimes people will say, give me a 12 by 12 bedroom, or so on and so forth. And they go and buy these large, bulky furniture. And he walks in, the place looks cramped, it looks cluttered. So all of that, even choosing what the size furniture that you want, all of that should be in the plan. You have to think about all of these things early on, or else
before I even start to build, I'm thinking about everything, and that's what my architect is supposed to do for me.
As simple as which way a door swings. What could be so annoying for you is when a door is supposed to swing right and it's swinging left, or it's swinging in and it should be swinging out. I mean, we went right down to that detail. So even when we have guests come to our house, as they walk through, they feel the ease. I built simple, but transitional. But everything, there's a purpose. There's a reason why there's a switch here that connects to a switch that's there, or there's a reason why this door swings. The look is still uniform. All doors look the same, but there's a reason certain doors swing in, or they swing out, or the handle is on the left and on the right. You can imagine walking around a door to try and open it. The flow is a bit different, and that helps, in just the home living side of it. So yeah, that is something that you have to consider from the beginning, because when you're ordering doors, you need to make sure that you order the door where the handle is on the left in some cases, or the handle's on the right in some cases, or you need to flip that door and then it looks different, eh? So all of those things play a factor.
So I can see why you decided to go custom, Sinatra. Like, let's talk about your design process. So did you have these same considerations? What was your design process like?
Did you say Sinatra?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, okay. So like I said, I had a one for aller, right? But when you go for a one for all of, that's not an all and done. They have, for people like me that don't really know what they want, they just know they want to build, they have packages. And let me tell you about these packages. So these packages can range from how many handles, doorknobs you have. You can get doorknobs that are $25 each, or you can get doorknobs that's $1,000 each. You can get a chandelier that's $150, or you can get a chandelier that's $200 and whatever. So that's where most of my costs came in. Mm-hmm. Most of my costs was what I wanted for my family to be easy. I don't need a 4-car garage right now. I love my home. We have a 2-car garage. I splurged on things that was kind of like self-care. I needed that big garden tub that had enough space that could put my gigantic candles on, and I needed that extra large closet for all my husband's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed that extra storage upstairs for my service dog to walk into its on space. I needed those things, right? So I went a little cheaper on some other things. For instance, my office that I'm sitting in right now does not have a door. That's why I was laughing when she was saying you have to picture everything. Because I was like, no, I don't need a door. I want the light from this sunroom to come blaring into my office so I could feel the energy of the sun. Foolish thinking when you have a teenager that plays video games, loud music, and I'm working and I'm pulling my hair out because my students can't hear me because I didn't put a door on my office, So those are like all the things. My process was all about the packages. What kind of countertops did I want? Granted, I have an Allen in the middle of my kitchen with my sink and granite countertops. I wanted certain things I didn't even know I wanted. For instance, did you know, people, when you put up a flat screen TV, so you don't see the cords behind it, you have to have an extra outlet that's behind the flat screen TV that costs an extra $250. Did you know that? I didn't even know that. But I'm so glad that the contractors and stuff thought of that, because now you don't see all of my cords hanging and you need one in every room that you have to have a TV in. So that's where all of my money came in, the stuff that I didn't even think about. I didn't even know to ask about, It just started to add up in that way. I wanted to go back a little bit. Someone was saying about financing.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to say something about the financing and how you get pre-approved and all that stuff. So Terry, are you in the United States?
No, she's in Nassau. I'm the only one.
Oh, you're in the United States? Okay. So in the United States, you go to your bank and you get pre-approved and stuff like that. Places that are building want you to already have a pre-approval. But like I said, when God put it in my heart, I jumped up and told my husband it was time for us to go looking for a place. And so some was saying, how much do you want to spend? And my husband he would look at me and I'll say, well, let's just say 400,000 for right now. Let's just say that. And we didn't think we would get qualified for that at all. I'm telling you, it's nobody but the grace of God. I'm telling you, I prayed and I had that mustard seed of faith and I just kept going. And sure enough, when that approval came in, it was exactly what we needed. But we had sold our other property, so we already had a lot of money to put down. We sold it for double of what we owed on it, and that was the grace of God as well. So I just say walk by faith, because sometimes you don't think you can do it, but God knows. He knows what you need. He knows when to give it to you, and if it's for you, He's gonna make it happen.
Yes, that's so true, and that's the testimony I think of all of the ladies here who have built. Obviously, you have to put work in place. You have to make sure that you're saving, and you're making wise decisions. But when it's time, it'll be time. Don't stress about, oh, I'm 30 and I'm not in my home yet. You work towards that goal. You keep looking, and the property that's meant for you, you will find it when it's time to find it, and the process will run. It may not be smooth, but it's going to run. Now, Terry, I don't know if you want to elaborate on your design process and what that was like.
Definitely. As you girls were talking, I just was like, oh my goodness, I wish I had somebody to interpret this plan for me, because I didn't know anything. I knew where the bathroom was going to be. I knew where the kitchen was going to be. But as for closets, storage rooms, I did not know where anything was going. And I have a closet right now I want to get rid of, because that was just an additional space I didn't need. So I basically, I didn't have an architect. My contractor already had plans. So for each of his clients, he had plans. He showed you plans and basically decided that's the plan you want to go with. He did not go in depth about where each thing is going to be, each room is going to be, all of that. So I did not know and I regret, that's something I really regret, not knowing where certain things, where the outlets would be. I wanted an over the range microwave, and I didn't have an outlet for that. So I had to go back after moving in, put in the outlet, and it was like a sort of an inconvenience. But that's something to really consider when you are about to construct a home.
That's a good point. So, Lyndira, in a case like that where the contractor is saying, I have the plans, could she have gone to someone like your company and say, the contractor gave me this, can you do a 3D rendering of this and walk me through it? Is that something that she should have done, or is that like a service that is provided?
Yeah, not just our company, but I know a lot of even some draftsmen. They may not be architects, but they may be experienced in the. I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Yeah, they may be experienced in the software where they can, all you really need, especially with the software that I work on, is the dimensions of the home, or the dimensions of the space that you need a rendering of. So as long as they have the dimensions and they have the layout of it, they can build off of that and develop a 3D rendering for you. I actually have, some family members that would have came to me and I would have developed a 3D rendering for them, because they say, I don't really know, like this is the layout of it, but I can't visualize it. So that's when they come to me and they're like, oh, can you put some furniture pieces in here, the core items on the wall, and it kind of gives them a preview of what that's gonna look like. So yes, you can go to a firm, or you can find someone that has knowledge of rendering software, and that's something that can easily be done. I do 3D renderings as well. So
I see questions about where you work. I know you may not feel comfortable talking about your primary employer. You are free to if you wish, but
okay.
Lyndira also has her own company called Lyndira Fowler Design.
Mhm.
I think I put it in the caption here as well. I don't know if I did prior to the video.
You did.
Where if you want to reach out to her, you can do so that way. But Lyndira, if you are comfortable, you can say the company.
Okay, I'm employed full time at TDG Architects Limited, where we do a lot of the commercial. So a lot of larger scale projects. Some I'm gonna just put a plug in here. We're currently wrapping up the design. We designed Rubis, the new Rubis that's on Gladstone Road. We designed Bahamas Medical, that's in Palmdale. We also did the design for the hospital, so PMH. So we do a lot of large scale projects. We do have a lot of residential. I mean, we do have some residential, but for the most part, we do commercial. A lot of our residential is, the larger homes. So, but we cater to every demographic, I'd say. So TDG Architects Limited is where I'm employed, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5.
Awesome. And I
Two
just have
things
a
I
quick
wanted to
story.
add, Remy.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I said just two things I wanted to add. One, to the financial aspect. Certainly when the bank tells you that a rate is the rate, or this is what it is, or whatnot, I find even in conversations with others that they settle for what the bank says. Always be willing to negotiate. A 1% difference is a big difference. And that is something that you can plug into an Excel sheet and see that, that's the difference. From what the bank told us initially, when we first started with this construction, we've shaved off 4%. 4% is a lot.
Wow.
And 4% can get you a lot. And, during our construction phase, I know someone had touched on the finishings are your biggest expense. And we started finishings in January of 2016. That's when VAT kicked in. So imagine already being approved, already having a home priced at a certain cost, and then you having to add 7.5% on all of your quotes. You're talking plumbing, you're talking doors, you're talking cabinetry. So that was a big shift for us. And to add another plug, I mean, I had a regular architect per se, but even if you have your home drawn by a draftsman or whatever, I did reach out to Indira's company, and they were the ones that did the final analysis on the plans that I had envisioned and our architect had drawn, and offered their input on what should have changed, and so that was beneficial because there were things that I hadn't seen that, became really what was, necessary. For example, putting an extra door in a bathroom that connected to a bedroom so your guests have another access. Changing a half bath from where you had it under the stairs to making it a more full functioning bathroom somewhere else. Shaving off, pieces of a room to accommodate something else. I will always tell persons, make sure when you're constructing to have, even if it's a 2x2 room, have a home office. One of the biggest advantages we have is a full, now I don't mind having to have shaved off a piece of my closet to convert into a home office, because we can see now that certainly has become beneficial. But even every home needs that quiet spot where you can shut the door for whatever reason. So it works wonders for us, even with me working from home for the past year.
No pun intended. Shut the door.
Even if you can't,
I'm getting my door. I'm gonna get my door.
So even if you can't afford the big scale, architects or whatever, I will always say there's two things. Don't limit yourselves. Your home is I would never, that 1 or 2 hours that I spent with Mr. Hepburn just revisiting our plans and him giving those recommendations and us making those changes were well worth it. But even if you're limited to something, at the end of the day, test your waters out there. Go back and talk to another banker and say, look, what do I have to do in order to get an interest rate that is more manageable? Where my payment amounts are more manageable. We have to also remember in construction that you're going to be paying interest until it's time to start that principal and interest payment. So you have to look at, okay, how much from my salary can I be taking to now pay this interest as this home? And remember, when the home is constructing, more delays you have, more interest you're paying before you can actually start cutting down on your principal. So time is money. And so even keeping on those contractors and making some hard decisions are going to be key. And if you're part of the problem, you're going to be part of that expense. So test your waters, talk to more bankers, talk to your bank, challenge your bank for a better interest rate, or find out what do you need to do to bring that rate down, or to qualify a little bit more. And also, if you can't afford an architect per se, when you're done and you're ready to start building, visit one of those architectural companies that come highly recommended. Ask them to just have a look, pay the cost, because if you don't pay it then, you're going to pay far more in the end.
And I just have along that vein, I have a quick story, and this is gonna show you guys what we all mean about making sure you pay upfront and you pay attention. So I wanted large storage bins that I think it's an 18 gallon or whatever it would have been. So the large ones. And I didn't read the dimensions properly, as some people don't. When they see blueprints on the paper, they're not seeing how big it actually feels. And when this came in the mail, I was stunned, because this is not what I wanted. And so you don't want this experience with your home when you think my bedroom is supposed to be this big and it ends up being this big. So you guys keep that in mind when you're going through those blueprints. And some things don't feel real. Like, I don't know in my human brain what it feels like. I mean, I didn't study this thing, right? So I don't know what 6 feet feels like in my brain. I don't know what that feels like unless you really experience with that and you start to become familiar with space, and you measure spaces in your own place already, right? So a lot of those things are abstract concepts to us. So make sure you get the professionals in there to show you what this looks like end to end. And that's what everybody is saying here. So I just want to pivot a little bit. We have a little bit of time left, but I think we can get through a couple of these questions. So choosing a contractor. And let's start with you, Terry, because you had your contractor up front. Now, I think that's a little risky, but, I want to know how you went through that process. And, just to let us know how you chose your contractor and the process working with that. I mean, you don't have to disclose who it was or anything like that, but just the process of choosing that contractor.
Well, like I said, I came across my contractor on Facebook, the very unconventional way. They advertise brand new duplex.
Red flag.
Advertisement came across my feed.
So.
Yes, yes. The advertisement came across my feed, and it just said brand new duplex. Please inquire within. So when I was pursuing this home ownership journey, I have already said I wanted apartments. And because I wasn't getting what I wanted from the other avenues, I said, let me just ask. So after talking with him, he seemed to be very experienced. I looked up a few of his work. I drove around the area where he said he did work. I tried to do a little background because I'm like, I found this guy on Facebook. It didn't seem legit at all. So after doing that, he gave me a contact number for one of the officers in the bank. And when I contacted that officer, she said that he's a very good contractor. And that basically solidified everything. That's all I needed to hear. And, he really walked me through the process. Like I said, the main hiccup I had was I didn't have a clear idea of where certain things would have been. And I wish I did. But other than that, he walked me through the process. He, communicated any misconceptions I had, anything that I wasn't sure about or I felt I didn't feel good about. He clarified. He made sure that he just wanted to make sure that I was happy with what I was getting. And I really appreciated him for at least, making sure I'm at peace with, and I trusted him.
Yeah, definitely. So like you said, you did your research, you went and you saw firsthand what he had done, you drove through those neighborhoods, you got references, and obviously you felt peace when he was willing to talk to you about the process. I don't know if anyone else wants to share about their choice in a contractor and how they made that final choice, or even things to look for to say, do not go with this person by all means. Do not choose this person.
Look at the homes they've built.
Well, I would say persons.
Go ahead, Terry. Then we'll go to Crystal.
Yeah, no, I would say, sorry, I was getting like feedback just now. Yeah, a contractor that's not willing to go through the bank, that's definitely a red flag. Like, do not go for anyone who doesn't want to go the legitimate way.
Okay, that's good. So people, I hope you wrote that down. If they don't want to go to the bank, that's an automatic red flag. Crystal, you had some points as well.
I was saying, look at their work. I mean, the first, before I even drew my home, the first thing I knew was where I was getting my tub from. So by the time I knew who was built, the first thing I purchased from my home was my tub. After that, I drew the house around that tub. Well, that in my closet, but the tub was the first. And by the time I started drawing, I knew where I was getting my windows and doors from. I knew where I was getting my plumbing from. I knew where I was getting my cabinets from, and I knew who my contractor would be. And that was because over time, I would have seen that contractor's sign in the front of multiple homes in multiple areas over New Providence. So I knew the quality of work of that contractor. So by the time I called them, I didn't search and get bids from other contractors. I approached that contractor and said, here, this is what I need you to build for me. I already have the pricing for my windows and doors and all my other finishings. Now I just need you to price what you're going to need for the block and the cement and the water. But at the end of the day, I knew exactly who I wanted to construct my home because I looked at how much time it took them to build a home. I looked at the quality of work, never mind the fact that I was controlling, in a sense, all of my finishings or the type of paint I was going to use or everything else. It still boiled down to, can you actually build this? And, like I said, I looked at the homes that were small in nature that they built, and I looked at the very large homes that they built, and I walked in some of them as they were under construction with the owners not even knowing because the workers were just there. But I wanted to see, just because at the end of the day, the owner of a construction company is one person, but that mason is another. The person that is laying those tiles is another. And, it's one thing for the contractor to send them out to work every day. But if they don't know or take pride in what it is they're doing, it's going to cost you as well. Whether it's time or money, it's going to cost you. So, Carib Construction for me was the only choice because at the end of the day, their work spoke for itself. There was no shortcuts in what they did. And, that played a part also in making sure that the quality of work, even now, you don't see the cracks. You don't see the crookedness of something, and those are the things that, after, the final payment after a home is constructed is paid 6 months after. And that retention is kept so that if you discover issues, that the contractor is paid. But could you imagine having something a year later? Homes take quite a while to settle. So to then be looking for somebody after you already have a mortgage on your back, so all of those things play a part. So do your investigation, and it goes deeper than seeing recommendations of persons on social media. See their work. Have a conversation the same way I talked about having a conversation with people in the neighborhood. Have a conversation with some of the homeowners. I had to do that in 2 occasions, asking the person, just driving up and saying, hey, I like how your house look. I saw the sign. I'm thinking about this contractor. And if a contractor has done good work, the people that they've worked for are more than willing to talk to you. Anybody could come here and ask who did our house, and I would be more than willing to engage them. And I found that to be the same when I wanted to talk about them. So I knew their reputation long before. Walking into their office, I can tell them where they built, and so that's important to because that is, it's their work that you're going to have to live with in the end.
Definitely. I love that. That is some excellent points. Let's move on to making your house a home. And I know it's a lot happened between seeing the lot, the home is, you get the plan, the home is built. What about making your house a home and that process of, where it's working with your husband to pick the perfect bed, like anything like that that you can give to viewers, any tips for viewers in terms of making their house a home? And we'll start with you, Sunita.
So
Sorry, Sinitra.
It's okay. I was like, yeah, that's me she's talking about. That's okay. I remember the building process. We drove to the lot several times. As a matter of fact, my husband would call me and say, where are you at? And I'm saying, I'm eating dinner at the new house. I would be out in the car in the driveway of the new house, eating dinner with the children in the car. And it started during the building process. I think it's the excitement of making, the house the home. My children were able to pick out their furnishings. We knew that we wanted it blessed before we walked through the doors. My husband, I let him pick out the bedroom furniture. I'm living with that. Yes.
Good thing is you can change it.
I told you now, I can teach a rock to read, but I can't tell you what kind of drapes I need in my room. I'm telling you, that's for somebody else. So, and he did a pretty good job. My husband played a big part in it as far as when my faith dwindled, then his got bigger. And I think it leveled us all out. So making it a home, just filling it with love, unconditional love, understanding. Because I'm telling you, if you ladies are married, if you are building a house and you don't get a divorce, hallelujah. Because it's hard on a marriage, especially when you living in one hotel room for 2 months. So we just filled our home with love and understanding and caring, and wanted to see what everyone wanted in the home. Even when we were talking to the contractor and the architect and all that stuff, we were trying to get what everyone wanted in the home. We knew that this would be a home we would stay in for at least 6 years. We plan on moving to another state after that, but we wanted to be comfortable in this time, even if we had to stay a little longer. So just to make it a home, we just wanted it to feel with love and wanted everybody to be comfortable, especially during the pandemic. Y'all, we had to stay in here a whole year together.
Yeah.
And everybody had enough space to move around and be okay mentally. And that was amazing. It came right on time. I'm telling you, it did. So, but yeah, just fill it with love and understanding and caring.
I
Okay.
love that. I see Tamara says that prayers and blessings before moving in is important. And we're going to go to Lyndira, same question, then Terry, then Crystal. Making your house a home or making a house a home?
Okay, so the first thing I'd say is determine your design style. A lot of times, and that being contemporary, modern, traditional, transitional. A lot of times, people come and they say, "I want a modern home," and you show them photos of what modern looks like, and they're like, "No, I don't want that." You know, that's too stark, that's too cold. So what I'd say is, House or Pinterest, any type of, even Google. When you see images, sort of kind of make a mood board, and I guess bring the images to your designer, or even if you're designing the home yourself in terms of furnishing and decor, and I guess determine what speaks to you. All right, that'll help you to make your house a home. The first thing I do when I have a new client is I develop a mood board, or what I call a look and feel package, and I bring images and I ask them what feels good to you, what feels like it's you, what feels like it's your style, what feels comfortable to you. So for me, it'll be determining what your style is, and then building off of that. So purchasing furniture, decor, everything that'll be aligned with the style that you feel suits you most. So yeah, determine your style.
Great. Go ahead, Terry.
Okay, so for me, it was definitely customizing my home, being able to put whatever I wanted to put. I could have hang any pictures I wanted. Purchasing rugs. Oh my goodness, that was like my most favorite thing about furnishing my house. Purchasing rugs. I love those shag, fluffy rugs. So having them in my home has been like the most peaceful, homey feeling I could have gotten. And I definitely would suggest having somebody pray for your home. That's important. That's top of the list. But for me, it was definitely customizing, picking the pinks, picking the countertops. Like everything is me, you know, and
Yeah.
walking here every day, getting off, coming from work, and pulling up to my house, knowing that I chose everything that's here, outside and inside. That's it for me. That completely done it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I'm sure we have second home purchases or builders here, and they're looking at you like, I remember that feeling my very first time. So definitely, I'm sure that they can relate as well. So go ahead, Crystal, the same question.
Girl, let me know when you're going rug shopping again here.
Rug's expensive. When she said rugs, I was like,
Hush,
Rugs are
Demi.
expensive, very expensive.
That's fine. Let me know when you're going again. I'll stick to the use a new rug.
Sure.
But I one thing that I was fortunate to have was my husband. Our home took two years to build, exactly 2 years, and it had nothing to do with the contractors not being here. They were here every day. It just took 2 years to build. And my husband came here once in those 2 years.
wow.
And his thing was just let me know when to turn left when I leave work, as opposed to going right. But so I had free reign on everything. But in doing so, I wanted to pull elements that he can appreciate. And I tried to incorporate habits that we had in that. So, for example, he likes to just, his thing is if a football game is on, he needs to watch the football. So of course, in our bathroom, there's a TV, just in case. And it's beneficial for him, and then we have this thing where, we do meet at 7, I call it, to watch the news. So, we watch the news straight through until. And so, going up our staircase, once you're done watching the news downstairs and, you're retiring for bed, we flick a switch and all of the lights on our staircase comes on, and for me, every night when, we press the remote button to turn the TV off in the family room and we flick that switch and, the staircase lights up for us. That it's something, I always look at it. He enjoys it. If we have company over, he always turns it on because So, and we've had big arguments over it before when I found out the price of those lights, and the staircase winds, so it's almost double lights. And his thing was, we don't need those lights. And I said to him, I'm gonna need some extra money because we're gonna need them lights. And so now if we have guests come over, the first thing he does is switches it on because it can glow up the rest of the open concept that we have downstairs. But I know that, as we're walking up the stairs, I'm appreciative of home in that sense. And I know that there was thought going into doing that for him. So in building your home, try to think of little traditions or little things for everyone else in the home that, will be soothing for them, or have them reminded that even in this process where I gave it all to you to do, you thought of me in it as well.
No, that is a good, excellent point. I realized that I skipped a step, which is the contractor is done and you're doing your walkthrough to confirm that you're comfortable with this place. So, Lyndira, like, what am I looking for when I'm doing my final walkthrough of a home that was built? Before I say, okay, contractor, I can take this over, my interior designer is going to come in and get things going. What should I be walking through? Should I be flicking lights to make sure everything is working, plugging into all of the outlets, etc.?
Definitely, you want to make sure your outlets are functional. You want to make sure your lights are turning on. You want to even notice just small things. Because I generally sometimes, even before I go into a space, you do like a little punch list. And you want to see if there's any, were there any cracks in any tiles, or when them moving things. You want to check, see if the walls. Are there any bruises on the walls? Are there just little things, like attention to those little pieces of detail? Are there any stains on the walls? The paint chipped, and has the paint chipped anywhere on the wall? So those little things. What else would I say?
I
Just
know
any little
in
thing
the
that you feel like will bother you, you want to point out. And at the end of the day, I always say, when you're doing that little walkthrough, take your time. Take your time and pick up on any little thing. Take photos. Just, you really want to be attentive during that process, because sometimes that is your last chance to make sure things are working properly, they're functioning properly, they look right. So don't rush that process. Even if you have to go there several times, even with and some extra eyes to point out things that you may have missed. So that process is key.
Yeah, that's great.
I
Tanisha,
know
go ahead. Go ahead.
I know before the final walkthrough, we have a walkthrough before the final walkthrough. And I remember the contractor handing my husband and I masking tape, blue masking tape. And he said, go through anywhere you see anything and put that blue tape anywhere you see anything. And so we were all going through and we were putting that blue masking tape on this. Oh, look, do you see this right here? Oh, what about this? Or, oh, look at this. We have that walkthrough so that at the final walkthrough, all those mistakes we found can be gone.
Mm-hmm.
There are checklists for the contractor, and you get a copy, they get a copy, you sign it, they say we will have this done by the final walkthrough. There is no, when I get to this final walkthrough, I see a problem. That's unacceptable. That's a no-go. At the final walkthrough, that's the final.
Yeah.
I laughed because my contractor did that with us. We ended up having, we did it twice.
Yeah.
And the final one, the thing is, our electricity, you get occupancy just before you're obviously moving and most of the work is done. And so the lights turned on just about a day or two before we moved in. And the way I have inside is, although it's concrete walls, I have the sheetrock over it because I wanted that smooth finish. So if you're working with the natural light coming in as opposed to the light, the imperfections on that joint compound and stuff were not seen until we flicked the switch on with the lights. So you can imagine, house is finished. They gave us the keys. We came home, lights are now on. We come in to clean up and you turn on the light and you're like, what the heck is this? And they wouldn't have noticed it, even though they're using beam lights. So of course it was like refinishing those walls all over again. But with the blue tape, he sent me a message and said, walk through the house. This was before that final walkthrough. And he said, I left some tape on the table for you. Just walk through, and wherever you see any issues, just put it. And he called me back later that day and he was like, what the heck is this? And Zemi, if you want, I can share with you later down my punch list. And he was like, it was like building a house over. I said, well, I see that and I see that. And he's like, some of these things you were just sticking here. I said, no, just look at it a little better and you'll see. But those blue tapes were, I laughed because by the time I stood outside the room and I saw it, but that sometimes it's good to do it then. And
Yes.
don't be ashamed of doing it. Don't hold back on doing it. If
Please
you
don't.
buy more blue tape, go and buy
As a-
more blue tape because when
Right.
it's finished, that's finished.
As a matter of fact, the contractor had more things that needed to be corrected on his list than we did. I didn't even see that. He's like, yeah, look right here. I was like, well, thank you. But
Yeah.
even after that, we got into the house and we noticed when we put our when we plugged in our iron in the laundry room, the TV went off in the living room. So for anything that's after, I don't know if you guys experience this, anything that happens a year and a half after you close, they fix it, no charge. And we pay a percentage of money in our HOA, in our closing costs to have that done. And so I was so grateful for that. It's the little things like the rubber part on my shower, or they come out and fix it, no questions asked. And that was you can opt in or opt out if you want that service. And I'm so glad I took the time to put money into that area, because when your house settles, you don't see certain things until the house settles or until the seasons change, the next season come. And if it's a year and a half in the doing, then you can always call the contractor or the HOA and say, hey, can y'all come out? I got this issue. And they came in, they fixed it. They was like, oh, this light switch is doing this. And it was wonderful. Even now, we've been here a year. We still got 6 months until that service is up. So that was a blessing.
Yeah, that is a godsend, definitely. I don't know, Terry, if you had anything to add in terms of that final walkthrough.
Yeah, well, with me, I basically took pictures. I took photos of anything that did not look right. My contractor didn't provide me with the blue tape. I guess he thought I would have misused it. But I definitely took photos of every single thing, anything that was not, what I wanted or, wasn't fixed right. I had a few chip paint spots, chip walled. So they came in, they repainted it. I had like little plumbing issues. He came and he fixed that. Even after I had a 6 months retention, after the 6 months, they go to the bank, sign my form, and they release the remaining funds. After that, even if I had an issue that arose, they would come in and still, up to this day, fix, anything without charge. So I was definitely grateful for that because I guess he knew that I was a first timer and I didn't give him too much trouble. So, they come in and they still repair anything that I have issues with.
Yeah, and before I go into like our closing remarks from everyone, Terry, I'm particularly interested for you, being a woman and doing this all on your own. How did you kind of safeguard against potentially being taken advantage of? Did you have anyone helping you? Did you have a project manager, or did you just trust that based on your references and referrals, you trusted your contractor?
Basically, I trusted him, but I also had a few contacts that I always went to when I felt like certain things wasn't how it's supposed to be. So I would always hit them up and ask them, hey, they're supposed to be here. This granite's supposed to lay here. These tiles are supposed to be aligned like this. I had a backup person just in case, because I did trust my contractor, but you're so scared of being, taken advantage of. Single woman doing this on my own. So, I hear plenty of stories of women who gave, really trusted their contractors, and they eventually got the shabby end of the stick. So I had a contact that I would consult with, and that helped me a great deal.
So you would tell other women who are on their own through this process to make sure they have someone on board with them? Like, what would you say to someone who's doing it all on their own?
Definitely have somebody that you can consult with. You need a second opinion in everything, just to give you a peace of heart, peace of mind. You don't want to yes, you want to have that trust and you want to know that you have gotten to this contract with one of the best, but you always need a second opinion.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And we are at the end of our discussion. So I just wanted to go around and everybody to kind of share what they really want home builders to know, our future home builders to know, whether it be mistakes to avoid, corners not to cut, corners not to cut in the process, whatever it may be. What do you want the message to be left with our viewers in the home building process? Do this or don't do this. And I guess you could give one of each. Do this and don't do this. And whatever parting remarks you'd also like to give. Let's start with you, Terry, and then we'll go to Crystal, then we'll go to Sinitra, and then we'll close with Lyndira.
Okay, so definitely when you're pursuing home ownership, present that to God, because you're going to need his guidance, you're going to need his direction, you're going to need him to give you the smoothest process you can possibly get. After that, I would say, make sure you clear any small debt. The banks here, I don't know if they do that in the US, Sinitra, but the banks here, if you have credit cards, any small debt you have, they will use that to assess your qualifying rate. So if you have a loan, that's going to decrease it. If you have a credit card or anything like that, that's going to definitely increase your qualifying rate. So I suggest anyone to get rid of it. Get rid of not the credit card, but any small debts, any debts that you can save to pay off. That would help you a great deal. And also don't shortcut on, things that you're going to need in the long run, like your windows. I suggest hurricane impact windows, especially being in the Bahamas, we're hurricane prone. That's definitely what you need to invest in your home. Even your countertops, down to your countertops. I prefer granite because it's more durable. You want to save in the long run instead of going cheap, whereas you still have to fix eventually. And have a good support, because the process is not easy. You're gonna have a lot of highs, a lot of lows. You're gonna feel like giving up. I came to that point at some part in our contract and in the process, but you definitely need a good support team, somebody who is, you can always go to when you want to vent. And yeah, you'll do good.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Crystal.
If there's one thing I can say that you should do is know what it is that you want and be clear in that. If you need time in the process to make up your mind, do that before you come to a finalized decision with the persons that are going to be doing the work, because change orders and changing this and changing that, or deciding that you become the horror client when you go out window shopping and come back and wanting, oh, I saw this, so give me this, and oh, I want to do this while the process is going on. So know what you want and stick to that. The other piece of advice I would give is, like for us, our home is 100% Bahamian built. Everything in this home was bought Bahamian, and that was a firm decision that I had made. And I found, even in doing my analysis, that it was cheaper to do that. And it mushroomed into lifelong relationships with our vendors. But when you look at the costing of everything, I realized that can work. Even when you sit down with the owners sometimes and say, let's see how best we can work this. You may not get what the cost was if it rang up at the register, so be able to negotiate with your vendors. We negotiated with all of ours, and even to give them shout outs to it. We got quality work from Nassau Tile. We got quality work from CBS. We got quality work from Bahamas Woodworking Studio, apart from our contractors, but from AG Electric. So we've had good local vendors who, at the end of the day, their costing came in far under what it would have been had we purchased abroad and had to have brought in. And, them working along with our contractors certainly paid off in the end. So always look at that as well. It's not always it's going to be too expensive or you're limited, because a lot of our stuff was special ordered and still came in under budget. So, have that as a consideration as well.
Definitely. I love that point about building relationships long term outside of just the project of home building. Cindy-Tro, your turn. You're up.
Yes. Okay. So one thing you must do is to remember to step out on faith. That's the one thing. You got to step out on faith. Don't let your mind psych you out and say you can't do it. It's possible. I'm living proof. I'll tell you, it's possible. That's the one thing you must do. The one thing you shall not do, remember this, don't go make large purchases prior to closing, because they still check your credit right before you close. If you got all those store credit cards and got all that stuff stacked up in storage somewhere, it's going to bring that credit score down, and it'll change your whole trajectory. It'll change your whole outcome. So be mindful of your spending prior to closing.
Someone says, for those indecisive buyers, don't watch HGTV. You can watch HGTV, but make sure you narrow it down by the time you get to, final process. Definitely. I know people have Pinterest boards, and you mentioned House, Lyndira. I think it's HOUZ or HOUZZ, where it helps you to determine what your actual style is based on the pictures that you select. So my husband loves that site, and we've taken the test a ton of times. So Lyndira, what about you? Do's and don'ts in this process?
Okay, so my answer is going to be more from a design point of view. And for me, just to piggyback on something that I said earlier, was to determine, is this your starter home or is this your forever home? And a big thing that I always tell people, if this is a home that you're going to be spending the rest of your life in, consider aging in place. And the reason I say that is because a lot of times, especially two-story homes that I've seen here in the Bahamas, we put all of the common area on the ground floor. So we put the kitchen, the living, the dining, laundry, a half bath on the ground floor, and then we have all the bedrooms up top. What happens now when we get in our 60s, 70s, 80s, going up and down that stairs is going to be extremely tedious for you. In some instances, our mobility is restricted. Like I have a grandmother now. I mean, even though her home is single story, sometimes it's still kind of hard maneuvering, narrow doorways. So consider that. That's a big thing for me. And I always, whenever we have clients, I always ask them, is your start home, is your forever home? So my recommendation would always be to have at least a guest bedroom and a full bathroom on the ground floor. So if there ever comes a time where your mobility is limited, you can still fend for yourself. You know what I mean? You don't need much assistance, because even sometimes I'm young, I'm still in my 20s, going upstairs, up and down sometimes can be a little taxing sometimes. So you can imagine when you get up in age and then you slow down. So that would be my recommendation to consider long term. Don't just build for right now. Consider how your home is going to function how it's going to function for you in the long run. Also, upfront, again, a lot of people, they may have multiple kids and they want to give every child a room. Consider what you're going to do when all these children move out, because what's going to happen is you're going to end up with tons of wasted space, rooms that you're never going to use. So think about it. How are you going to use these rooms when you become an empty nester? Are you going to turn this room into a home office? You're going to turn this into a home gym? You're going to turn this into a prayer room, a man cave, a woman cave? Think about how your home is going to function for you in the long run. I have a godmother. She had a set of townhomes, and they were both 3-story each. So they lived on one side and they rented the other side. They recently sold that, and not sold it. They recently moved out, but they kept that property, and she was able to split that 3-story townhomes into about almost 10 units. Wow. And so now that generates, through Airbnb and short-term rentals, that generates income for them. She would, after she resigned from her job, that's a steady income for her. So you always want your home to work for you in the long run. Think about how it's gonna pan out, years down the line. Another thing I would say don't do, again, Sammy mentioned that I'm big on biophilic design, sustainable design, so nature and that sort of thing.
Before we
So a
go,
lot of times
define
when
that
we get,
term though, because I don't think a lot of people know what that means.
okay, yes. So biophilia is humans' innate relationship with nature and natural elements. So how we respond to, trees, water, that sort of thing. So I'm big on that. So the first thing a lot of people do when they get a property is they clear it down completely. They don't salvage any trees. They don't try to do anything. So for me, I would say do not, if you can, salvage any type of trees, if whether it be fruit bearing trees that provide
Poinciana,
shade,
lily trees,
poinciana,
yes.
they add to the aesthetic of the home. I'm sure we can all appreciate a home that's landscaped versus a home that is not landscaped. And I can tell you, it makes a difference in terms of the curb appeal. Like I said, the aesthetic of the home. And if it's naturally occurring plant, you kind of want to keep it as long as it doesn't threaten the foundation, because sometimes roots can affect the foundation, the structure of your home. So consult with a landscape architect and find out how best you can save those plants, especially if they're what you call fruit bearing plants.
Yes.
So fruit bearing trees, you wanna salvage those. Another thing, like the calamity trees. A lot of people, they tear those down and then they go and they get some young ones and they replant them, and it takes a while for those to reach to full maturity. It takes years, so you don't get that appreciation. Whereas if you would have kept that during your clearing down process, you would be able to enjoy that even right after the construction process. So during the clearing down process, be on site. Maybe get some yellow ribbon or however the ties that we use to
Bring the blue tape again.
whatever. So maybe a ribbon or a rope,
Yeah.
and just be there directing the machine operator and say, okay, I want to keep this, I want to keep that. And then later on, if you have to remove it to facilitate the construction of the home, then fine. But again, that's another point. Save the trees.
The landscaping comes into a package too, y'all, and those trees are expensive.
Yes,
Exactly.
they are. They are. But even plant, while your home is being constructed, plant trees. You'd be amazed as time goes on how quickly they tend to grow at in their initial stages. So use that opportunity. People wait until after they're done with construction and moving in to start doing that. The first things to do is plant those trees and plant native trees. In our yard we have just about every native fruit there is, and there's no other pleasure than walking outside and picking from the tree, rinsing and eating. So have things in your yard that you can enjoy, not just all of the other exotic trees, but plant what you can eat, and you really appreciate your home.
Definitely. Terry, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, one of my advice points was save for landscaping, because that's one thing I didn't do. Landscaping was the last thing on my mind. I didn't care about landscaping at all. It wasn't until I've already gotten everything, I've already furnished my house, appliances, everything in place, that I thought about, oh my goodness, my yard needs to look a little better than this. So definitely incorporate landscaping into your plan. Very important.
Don't feel bad, Terry. We've been here 5 years next week, and we're only just planting grass. But everything comes in time. Everything comes in time. Not everyone is going to move into a home that's already fully completed, fully furnished, yard is already done, and you're just going to be in living. The thing is, the best enjoyment you're going to get out of your house is developing it as you go. Like I said, we've been here 5 years and I'm still doing stuff, and every Saturday I'm out looking for stuff, and it adds pleasure to your living space. You can't enjoy it if it's all one and done by the time you move in. So if a curtain, you'll see the progress. If you have newspaper up to your windows today, don't feel bad. You have to make a choice as to if I'm buying a small fridge, or I'm buying a fridge, or if I'm buying a washer, am I going to buy that plant? but all of that comes into the process. And I think it's even more beneficial for you when you go through those month to month, year to year. Start off with your small projects and let it grow from there. That's the only way you're going to enjoy it.
That was going to be one of my points. So you don't have to rush the process. It doesn't have to be all at once. You can take your time and have fun in that process. And I also wanted to say as well, we didn't get to touch on it tonight, but home insurance. Now we live in the Bahamas is natural disasters. Here I deal with tornadoes, Tennessee, tornadoes, flooding. So it's important that you make sure that your home insurance has coverage for these and anything you can think of. I know it may be expensive in some regards, but you definitely don't want to think back and say my whole investment is destroyed and I have nothing because I wasn't covered and I wasn't paying it on an annual basis. So it's not just getting it up front to show the bank that you have it, it's also maintaining it. So make sure your home is insured. One of the tasks this month for Wifer, we have homework every single month. And so for the home ownership side, if you do own a home, I have asked that everyone make sure that their home is insured up to the value of the home because that can change. We've heard that, they were able to sell their homes, Crystal and also Sinitra were able to sell their home and get double. So that means that the value of the home went up. Your home may only have been insured for that value when you first got it, but now the value is increased. If something happens, what's going to happen? And so you want to make sure that your home is insured for the full current value of the home. And so that would wrap up our discussion. The only thing I'm going to ask, ladies, is if you want to share your contact, to see people can follow you. I don't know if you're on Instagram, if you want people to follow you on Facebook, how can they reach out to you with a question? If you feel comfortable sharing your contact details. So we'll start with you, Lyndira.
So my Instagram and Facebook handles are Lyndira Fowler Design. That's LYNDIRAFOWLERDESIGN. I took a break tonight I'm actually building my own website. That will go live by Wednesday. So the link for my website will be on all of my social media platforms.
Okay, Dr. Sinitra, go ahead.
Yes, I have an Instagram. It's Netra, Netra BOO1, Netra Boo. I'm always young at heart. And my Facebook is Sinitra Johnson -Jordan. I prefer Facebook. I do.
Oh, okay.
Yes, please.
You said Netra one.
Sinitra, SENETRA, Johnson, JOHNSON -Jordan, JORDAN. Yep. Yep, that's me.
Perfect. Crystal.
It's easier to find me on Facebook by my name, Crystal Holder. And even in Messenger on Facebook, you can use the call option and you'll be directed to my cell phone.
Awesome. And then finally, Terry.
So my Facebook handle is Terry Bullard, TERI Bullard, BULLARD. I've actually posted on my journey to home ownership. So that's a public post. If you want to, you can type it in and you'll be able to see it from my handle.
Awesome. Thank you. And if you want to follow Wifer, we're at Wifer Ministry across all of our platforms. We have a goal this year to have 1,000 followers by the end of 2021. And so I need all of you to make that happen. So if you're watching tonight and you have not subscribed, please do so. I see home insurance is a must, definitely. Our topic next month is all about next week. It's all about understanding your home mortgage itself. That, digging into the details of that, making sure people fully understand their home mortgage. Remember, we have discussions every single month. I saw people ask about investments. So next year, I think I'm going to bring that in and talking about real estate as an investment. So thank you for tuning in tonight. I really appreciate it. I saw Luther in the house. I think that's for Terry. but I'm also from Luther, so I'm going to plug that in too. So thank you all for watching. And those who are watching the replay, thank you. Like, share, and subscribe. Good night, ladies. Thank you so much.
Nice
Bye.
meeting you guys. Bye.